Basically, what are these web components? So this, if you want to build web-based applications, previously we had a structure like this. The generalized structure how we build it. The previous version we used to have web pages here. On the top of it, to build this web pages, we have a framework. We used to use any one of the framework. Using this framework as a we used to build a web application. So we have web pages, framework, and web application. That means we used to learn specific framework. Any developer who is a web developer, if you want to build this web-based application, they used to learn a specific framework. That means if I know core JavaScript, core HTML, core CSS, they will not be sufficient for me to build this application. You are supposed to learn this framework. Let us take an example. You want to build a Lightning. You want to build a web page using Lightning. If anybody want to build a web page using Lightning, now even though there is a web-based application only, but the problem is the core JavaScript, if you know, and HTML and CSS, if you know, you will not be able to build it. What we are supposed to do? We are supposed to go with the Jura framework. You started learning about the Jura framework, and the people have to, a developer has to learn a different framework called Jura. Only with the help of that Jura you can build it. Now, like, or somebody else is learning AngularJS. Somebody is learning React.js. Now, what is that? We are learning some specific framework to support our application building. Now, these are not supporting the current system. What we have is not supporting the older system. What we have is not supporting the native scripting functionalities. So the core CSS, the core HTML, the core advanced HTML functionality, advanced scripting functionality should be directly used in this framework. We are not supposed to learn any additional features to build this application. So we want to bypass this system. Now the AngularJS guy cannot learn this Jura. Jura guy will not be learning the AngularJS. Now we want to remove this framework. So we want the environment where I can build my web applications straight away with the help of native platforms. Straight away with the native platforms, we want to build it. Web application and web pages. That's how this concept of web component came into the picture. The concept of web component came into the picture. So what are these web components? Web components are a set of platform APIs that allows you to create a new custom reusable encapsulated HTML tags to use in the web pages and web application. Basically, we are trying to build a templates which can be reused in multiple pages. Now, web components are the set of web platform APIs that allows you to create new custom reusable encapsulated HTML tags. In simple, I can say, when you are learning a Visual Force, you have learned force.com API to build a Visual Force component. You use the Visual Force API, like the force.com API, to build some of the Visual Force pages. Jura framework you use to build Lightning components. Like this, we are using web platform APIs, like I told Jura, like I told Comedy, like we had React, like we had Angular. We are using this type of APIs that allows you to create new custom and reusable entities using HTML tags that can be encapsulated in the pages. Now, basically, any web component that you specify, the web components generally contains 4 elements. The web component, the advantage of the current web components: custom elements, shadow DOM, ES modules, HTML templates. These are the 4 key factors of your web components. If you want to build a web component, doesn't matter. Okay, I'm not speaking about the Lightning web components. In general, web components, when you speak about web components, there are 4 major thumb rules for it. One is the custom elements, shadow DOM, ES modules, and HTML templates. When I say custom elements, these elements helps you to build generic DOM elements, or new type of DOM elements are generic DOM elements. These elements specify the designs or the templates to create new DOM elements or generic DOM elements. Okay, we understand these terms in terms of your Lightning. Okay, just as a overview, I'm just trying to show the content here. Shadow DOM. Now it's used for designing your styles along with the elements, like how you got when you went to the Lightning. In the Lightning component, for the component inbuilt style is there. We used to create example or CMP. When you click on the style, for that component, corresponding encapsulated style is to come. Generally, when you go for a Visual Force page, what we used to do? We used to define the style on the top, or we used to give a style within the element, inline style, or within the page we used to define or import it. But here, for a specific page, this style. When you're building a Lightning component also we have got component style. That shadow DOM specification defines how to encapsulate style and markup in the web components. The component what you design, the corresponding style what we created, how to embed both of them. Then the HTML template. This is the major area, this is a major one which is going to play a role in the web components. Even in the Lightning web component also, the templates are going to make it. Creating a HTML template. Like generally, if you are trying to build your HTML code, how do you create? HTML opening, HTML close. If you want to build a Lightning pages, a Visual Force page, how you create? Apex page close. Lightning component open, Lightning component close. Similarly, here also in the web components, everything is defined with the help of template. Like I repeat, when you are designing Visual Force pages, every Visual Force page will start with Apex page, close with Apex page, opens with Apex page, closes with Apex page. Similarly, Lightning components, we get Jura component open, Jura component close. Similarly, Jura application open, Jura application close. Okay, on the same grounds, if you are working with these web components, we need a templates to design the HTML elements. All your HTML elements, whatever the scripting or markup what you want to put, that will be in template. The complete markup what you want to put, that will be in the complete markup what you want to put will be in the template. So every HTML template open with the template tag, closes with the template tag. Now, some of the popular web component tools that we have: AngularJS, Stencil, Bit, Hybrids, LateHTML. These are some of the popular web component tools that we have. Now, coming down to our story now. Right, there's a basic quick idea about the web component in general. Let us come back to the Salesforce Lightning web components. If you look at the graph of our Salesforce development, so initially the development activities are carried out using S controllers, which is nothing but your Ajax toolkit. We used to use Ajax toolkit. Ajax toolkit, Ajax dot Ajax/connection.js. We used to use the Ajax toolkit to build your development activities. That is using the scripting. The complete activity is to be with the help of scripting. Then later, that was simplified. People want to get rid of this scripting and they want to give, they want to improve the performance, they want to make the development simple. So they brought some built-in APIs like your Visual Force, Apex page block, all this stuff. Now, almost from 2010 to 2015, we had this Visual Force dominating the market, where the development of the Salesforce development is carried out on the Visual Force. Later, around 2015, we got the Lightning Jura framework. This is to build single page application to give the better performance, and give the rich UI. Now we are getting Lightning web components. In the last spring 19, basically summer 19, they have given the pre-release. The summer 19 they have given the pre-release version of Lightning web components. So we got Lightning web components. So this is the general structure. The core aim of all these 4 modules is to improve the performance and to support native languages, to support the native app building, to improve the performance or to give the rich UI. So structure to structure, the architecture is same. Now the core aim of this is to build the component only. Either you are using S controller or Visual Force or Lightning Oracle framework or web component. The core aim of all the 4 is to build the elements, okay, which can be reusable. The core aim of all the 4 is to build the elements or components which can be reused in the pages. But to improve the performance, time to time the architecture is changing internally. So we have different architecture for S controllers, then we have Visual Force, then we have Lightning Era framework, different architecture, and Lightning Web Components. Right. Now what we can do with the Lightning Web Components? Before I move on to the Lightning Web Components, I just want to convey the point here. The point here is, now we are moving to the Lightning Web Components. Now what about the existing? Like when you got a Visual Force pages, when the Lightning came, we had a thought of converting all the Visual Force pages to Lightning framework. Then, as I told you, it is not a good practice to convert all the existing application to Lightning. So we used to get the Lightning look and feel by applying a couple of tags. Right. Now it is not necessary that we need to convert it. Okay. So if the people are still using the classic application in the last the last previous 2 sessions, we have discussed including the components in the Visual Force page, and when we go for the Visual Force, I don't want to migrate to the Lightning. Still my application is in the classic, but I want to get the look and feel of the Lightning. I don't have any intention of migrating my application to Lightning. This application has been running in my running in the classic from last 10 years. Now the existing functionalities, I don't want to build it in the Lightning, but I want to get the look and feel. All the new development activities what I'm building, they should be built on Lightning, but still they should be represented in the existing Visual Force page. There we had a choice of including Lightning components within the Visual Force. In the Visual Force and Lightning, if you take it, Visual Force we are not including the Lightning. We are including the Lightning within the Visual Force. But when you come to the Lightning Era framework and Lightning Web Components, when you come to the Lightning Era framework and Lightning Web Components, this Lightning Web Components can be included in the Era framework. Lightning Web Components can be included in the Era framework. Now, whether you build a Lightning component using a Era framework or a web component, as for the end user, it doesn't make a difference. Now, the end user will not be able to recognize the differences between the build component which are built on Lightning Era framework and Lightning Web Component. As being a developer, as the architecture changes and the way we build it is changing, as for the developer point of view, now they are different. But if once a component is built, you will not be able to identify on the end user level. Now, whatever the Lightning Web Components we have created, we can induce or encapsulate these web components within the Era framework. Okay, so Lightning Web Components can be encapsulated with the Era framework if you need. Similarly, Lightning Era framework components can be encapsulated within the Visual Force. Okay. Now, if you look at this, how we are going to build Lightning Web Components. So, as a full-length version in the Spring 19, they have given the Lightning Web Components for you. In the Summer 19, they have given a pre-release version, but in the Spring 19, the complete version they have given. So, Lightning Web Components can be built in 2 formats. One is using the Lightning Web Component model or by using the Era Component model. So, Lightning Web Components are available in the Salesforce from the Spring 19 in the version 45.0, and we can build this Lightning Web Components, as I told you, in 2 ways. One is with the Lightning Web Components model, another one is Era model. So, as I told you, if you look at the core differences, I just copied the screen from the internet. I just try to explain it. It's not my screen, it's copied from the internet somewhere. Okay. Now, look at this structure. Now, basically, E6 and E7, the web standards. ECMA is one of the organization which defines the web standards. the global web standards. Okay, the web development web standards are defined by these people. Now we have EC5, EC7, currently EC7. Now previously we also have EC6. Okay, E6. Now if you look at this, this is the generally Euro framework. This is the Lightning framework. If you look at this thing, your Euro framework is running on ES5 and your Lightning web component is running on ES7. So if you look at this, custom component model, custom templates, custom models, we used to have this as a features. Now to reduce this, to support the native things, they have included a couple of things here. That's what we discussed in the beginning. Web components, templates, custom elements, shadow DOM. Templates, custom elements, shadow DOM. These are the things which we had as a thumb rules for the new web component model. In the EC7, we have templates, custom elements, shadow DOM, and some standard events, okay, which we are generally going to use it. Now, what is the purpose of this template, custom events? We get into the topic, we'll know what exactly they convey, because these are all new terminology to us. Okay, once you get into the implementation part, we'll be understanding each and every one. The basic differences of ES5 and ES7: custom templates, shadow DOMs, sorry. So right. So templates, custom elements, shadow DOM, models. We'll discuss them in implementation one by one. We'll discuss them in implementation one by one. So let us get into our Salesforce structure and see how we can implement those Lightning web components here. That's all basic theoretical part. Just to have a quick overview of what it is. As a domain name is a must for the Lightning, I have enabled. Already we are using our Lightning 0107 just to give access to all my upcoming programs on the Lightning web components. I just created a new account. I'll share the username password of this account. You can access this for accessing my web component examples. Right. We have done this. Once you have done this, the first and foremost point, we want to enable DevHub. We want to enable the DevHub. Now, this DevHub is just like your ant. DevHub is a production or repository, server-side repository which your organization is maintaining. Now, to the repositories, we have a different terminals connected where the different users are working and they are connecting to the repository. That all the different terminals what we are connecting, we can call them as scratch arc. I can say this DevHub as production or repository arc. Now, when I say repository, let's say when I say GitHub, all the developers are connecting to your server-side GitHub, okay, pulling and pushing the code. But every developer has their own terminal through which they connect, they pull the code and push the code. Now, in terms of the GitHub, we have a server-side repository. All the users are getting connected to the server-side repository, pulling the code into local machine and pushing the code into server. The same activity what we do with the GitHub, we carry out the same activity in your Salesforce with the help of DevHub and scratch arc. Now, your individual local machine, I told you, the GitHub, the individual developer is going to push the code from local machine to the server-side repository or pull the code from server-side repository to local machine. Here, my local machine will be my scratch arc. Every developer will have its own scratch arc on which he is going to work, and he is going to push the modification to the repository or pull the code from the dev to the local machine. So we assign a scratch arc to the developer. Developer is going to work on the scratch arc and is going to push and pull the code into dev. As I told you, dev is like a production or a server-side repository. Now, if it is disabled, enable it. Once it is enabled, we cannot disable it. Once the dev is enabled, we will not be able to disable it. Okay. The second story, what I want to understand is, when you go to Lightning development, when you take in a Lightning development, our Lightning development is done on developer console, or we can do this development from Eclipse. We can do this development from VS Code. So your developer console will support development of Lightning components using Era framework. But your Lightning web components cannot be developed. From developer console. Your developer console will not support building of Lightning components using Lightning web components. You cannot build Lightning web components from the developer console. The only way you can go with is VS Code. So we can say SFDX. So let us quickly look into how we can set up this environment so that we can start building our applications. Now the first one, if you want to work with the Lightning web components, we are supposed to go with the VS Code editor. So to do this, first step we need to do is install the CLI, command line interface. The first thing that we are supposed to do is install the CLI. So what we can do, go to this, just give we can take the CLI, they have given the version, just download. It's the exe file, just download the file, or you can just you can look for the right file here. CLI will be there. Download your SFDX CLI based on your operating system. You can just download the corresponding CLI. It is the exe file. It is the exe file. It is the exe file. Just click on next. It will be installing. It's the exe file. It will be installed. Once it is installed, how do you know it's installed successfully or not? It is the exe file. I already installed the file on my system, so I'm not downloading it again. So download the file. It is the exe file. Just click on next. It will be automatically installed. Go to the command line. Then if you want to check whether it's installed properly or not, just give SFDX. You'll find the list of commands. So if it is installed properly, you'll be finding list of commands here. Then we can go with you can specify the help, the topic. Right. Now whatever what is the CLI that is installed on my system, I want to cross check whether it's in the latest version or not. If it is not a latest version, I want to update it. So you can just simply give a command sfdx update. Right. We have other lengthy procedure, but sfdx, instead of going for installing a plugin and all this stuff, you straight away give sfdx update. Automatically the system will verify the latest version updated. The previously we used to use plugins, sfdx install plugin. We used to have a different command for installation update, but right now we have sfdx update. We just give sfdx update. If the current version of mine is not mapping with the latest version, it will automatically upgrade it. Okay, so what is the first step that we are supposed to do? The first step is download the exe file. Then test it. Command line, type if you get then installation successful. Otherwise, you'll be finding a error message there. Okay. Then third one, you need to go with updation. Third one, you need to go with updation. What was this updation? sfdx update. sfdx update. It's just like same like your installation of plugin. Previously we used to install the plugin, but now you can go with the simplified version. The next one, we require VS Code editor. We require VS Code editor. Now, this is an open source provided by Microsoft. VS Code editor is an open source provided by the Microsoft. I think I opened the file here. Okay. Download the corresponding file, Visual Studio Code. Right. Just like your Eclipse, whatever you are doing with Eclipse, the same story will run here also. Right. Just go to the Visual Studio editor. Based on your operating system, just download the VS Code editor. Based on your Visual Force, based on the operating system, download the file. Now, I have already downloaded the file. I have some VS Code. This is also exe file. VS Code user setup. Just click on next, next, next. It will be automatically installed. Now, I already downloaded it. I don't want to reinstall it. Again, it takes some time for reinstallation. So I'm just bypassing the system. Install the VS Code editor. Based on your OS. Now, if you remember, if you are working with the Eclipse, what we used to do? If you are working with Eclipse, Salesforce to Eclipse plugin. if you're working with Eclipse, the Eclipse is a Java-based tool. Now, the moment I install the Eclipse, it still stores a Java. Now, if you want to build any Visual Force program or any Salesforce-oriented program, what we used to do, we used to install the corresponding plugin. We used to go to the Eclipse file, okay, help, install new software, and we used to give this URL as a plugin. Once you give this URL as a plugin, then the required API files what are required to build the Salesforce, okay, the Apex and Visual Force programs, that will be automatically available in the Eclipse. Similarly, when you install the Visual Studio Code, I want all the extension files of your Visual Force, Apex classes, Lightning, everything to be achieved here. I want all my now I want all my Salesforce extension files to be included here. Salesforce plugins to be included here. In the Eclipse also, when you install the Eclipse, the Salesforce will not be available. What we used to do is, we used to install the plugin. After installing the plugin, the corresponding Apex supporting files are uploaded into the Eclipse. Then we'll be able to create Visual Force and Apex programming. Similarly here, what we need to do, we used to include the force.com API IDE, right? Similarly, once a Visual Studio Code is installed, this is the Visual Studio Code. Then we'll be finding. So look at the Explorer files, search for the files. Then we have source control, GitHub, debugging, and we have marketplace. This is actually a marketplace where you can find all your extension tools. Just click on this icon. It's a marketplace where you find all your extensions. So open the marketplace. Let the file be opened. Salesforce extension pack. So in my case, I have installed this. You'll be getting an option called in my case, I already installed it. So I'm not getting the install option. Otherwise, you'll be finding it. Look at the point here. You'll be finding an option here. Install. Just click on the install. The extension pack will be installed here. In my case, already I have installed the package. So you're not getting the option called install here. You're getting an option disable and install. But in your case, you'll be getting an option called install. You're getting an option called install. Just click on the install. Just click on the button called install. You'll be able to get that corresponding extension on your org. You'll be able to get the corresponding extension on your org. What was that? Install Salesforce extension pack. The moment I say Salesforce extension pack, what are the elements that are there in the extension pack? Apex, debugger, replay debugger, CLI integration, Jira component, Visual Force, Lightning Web component. So all together is your extension pack. A single pack which will, when you install this, the corresponding files will be installed on your VS Code. So you can use that all these APIs within your coding. We can use all this coding. Okay. Right, Amma. So let us move on to the next part of the story. So what I have done, install the extension. After installing the extension, I want to create. Right. Then what you are supposed to do is, create one folder first where you can put all your projects. Create one folder, then go to your market, then you can say file, open folder, go to file, open folder. So right, what I can do is after opening a folder, just let me refresh. Control Shift P. When I say Control Shift P, the concern palette will open where you can go to reload window. After opening the folder, I'm just reloading the window to ensure that all my content is going to be in the specified folder, right? So whatever I'm going to create, it is going to be on the concerned folder. Now what I want to do is I want to create an application. I want to create an application. So how can you create an application? Now you want to create an application. Where you want to create? In which org you want to create? So what I want to do is I want to open my org. I want to open my org. So what I will do, file, Control Shift P, create, create project. Enter the project name. Enter. Right. So we have created a project here. The file is getting created. Let's wait for the file. So once the project is created here, you are able to see all the concerned files. VS Code, config, force app. Whatever the coding that we are doing, that will be available to us under the force app, like the application, Jura, classes, okay, FlexiPages, layouts, LWC, object. So everything we are going to find it in this create application. Now I want to authorize my arc. Once you created this, I want to authorize my arc. Control Shift P, authorize an arc. URL. Basically, you have a terminal here to do all this stuff, but if you also have UI based format, you can do that instead of going to generally we find commands to do that, but already in the VS Code we have a the moment you have successfully logged in, you're getting a message on the terminal. You're successfully logged in. You can log out from the browser. You can log out from the browser if you want. Okay. Now, what I want to do, I want to create, you're logged into the org. I want to create some I want to create a lightning component first. Control Shift P, create lightning component, component name, take the standard directory, okay. Once I created a lightning component, so whatever the lightning component we have done in the developer console, the same story I was doing from the SFDX. When I'm creating the same thing from your SFDX, what we used to get in the lightning component, look at the point, CMP, metadata, CSS, design, SVG, controller, helper, renderer. The complete bundle, lightning bundle what we had, the documentation, component, metadata file, CSS, design, SVG, and all the stuff. Now I'm giving here create a component. I have saved the component. First, let us take one quick example. We'll move on. I created a component. I saved it. Let me do one thing again. Quickly, let me authorize. Control Shift P. Authorize an arc. Or else I can do one thing. Control Shift P. Open default arc. There was a command to open the default arc here. Okay. What are the arc to which I connected? I was opening the default arc. Then I was trying to push the code into the arc. Control Shift P. Push default arc. What was that? Right. Okay. Once you've done this, let me push the code. Control Shift P. We had a command push to default, source to default. There should be command here. Okay, let me type up the command here. Terminal. Force push SFDX. Just give me 1 minute. Let me cross check the command to push it. The UI base is not working. Let me open this. Running, you cannot push source only to scratcher. Okay. Shift P. Because I couldn't create a scratcher arc. Okay, no issue. Let me come back to the story. I create a default scratch arc. When I'm taking a default 7 days sufficient for shift. I'll give the sequence steps. Scratch arg is getting created here. Let's wait for the file. Right, okay. Let the file be created. There is another option, wait for the file to be created. Okay. Now, wait, then push the code to the terminal. Right. Once it is pushed, go back to your organization. You can go to Lightning Components. You can see LWC1. So what happened? From this environment, whatever I have created, I'm pushing it. So what I have done in this case, first let me put the steps, because in between we got certain errors. Let me fix the issues here. Then what I have done, I'll give a sequence of steps first. Create a folder. Open the folder. Then create a new project. project. Enter the project name. Right. Authorize the org. Authorize your dev hub again. This will open login page. You provide then create the scratch chart. Again the same story. Now this we can do with the commands, but it's more confusing to learn the commands now. That's the reason we are trying to use the UI based structure. If you're trying to learn all the commands, it will be more confusing now. So down the line you can go through them. We're trying to go with the UI directly. Create a scratch arc. Control Shift P. Create default scratch arc. Then we give scratch arc definition and number of days. Anything between default. This is how we created. Then create the lightning component. Control Shift P. Then write your code. Then open the default arc. Then basically you're supposed to get a push from scratch arc to right. Yeah, we got it. Push source to default scratch arc. Push the source from default scratch arc to override configuration. Push the source. Okay, we have push and pull. Because previously I have not created a scratch arc, we didn't find this, but now we are able to see push the source to default scratch arc, push the source to default scratch arc in case of any conflict override. Now push and pull. This is how we are getting it. Okay, so we can use the push command here. Okay, this is what I have done. This is a sequence what I have implemented here. Just try to follow the same sequence to get it. Now the story is, our point is creating a lightning web components. Let us come back to our story now. Just done one basic example. Now if you want me to create one more time, if everyone has followed, it's okay. Otherwise, I'll create one more time. Is that was clear for everyone, or should I create one more time?
Sir, could you please repeat one more time?
Right. So look at the story what I had. First step, I'll also go and delete the scratch arc what I created. Okay. Now, first story, file, open a folder, selected the folder. So my folder is open. Then once my file is open, Control Shift P, create project. Project name, for that matter, I will do one thing. I will try to create a subfolder so that every example will be an independent example. So go to this, Control Shift P, create project, project name LWC example. Choose the folder. So that's what I have given here. Step here, look at the steps what I have given. Create a project. Okay, you can choose the folder name whatever you have given. Click on enter. The file is created. This is the project is created. Now I want to log into my DevHub. How do you log into DevHub? Control Shift P, authorize DevHub. Authorize DevHub. It is opening my account. So I was giving the components. You want to say authorize, is going to say organization authorize. You can close the window. Whatever the account I logged in, I have closed it. I don't need this stuff anymore. Okay. Right, I closed it. Then move to the next one. I want to create a scratch arc. Control Shift P, create a default scratch arc. Choose the path, enter this one. enter how many days I require for only 1 day. So I have created a scratch arc. What I have done here, create a scratch, Control Shift P, create a default scratch arc, choose the scratch arc definition, lifetime you can give anything between 1 to 10 and wait for that time. So once the file is created, we'll be getting the information. So first I have created a folder, then I created a project, then I have created I logged into authorized to my dev hub, then I created one scratch arc. Okay. Now after creating a scratch arc, then create a lightning component, or else I can create a lightning web component also. Now Control Shift P. Now create a lightning component, example. Create a lightning component, choose the path, directory path, default path I have chosen. Create a lightning component. Now this lightning component, I want to push it to my scratch arc. When I want to push it to my scratch arc, Control Shift P, then open the scratch arc. Open the default scratch arc. Scratch arc was created successfully. Okay. Then go to Control Shift P. Open the default scratch arc. Something is missing. Okay. Open default scratch arc. Where was that? Okay. Default arc. Now it has opened my default arc. What are the scratch arc I created is opened here. That's what I mentioned here. Lightning component. Come down and create, open your default arc. Open the default arc. The default arc is created. Now what I want the source to be pushed. So Control Shift P, push source to default scratch arc. So whatever I created here, the code I was pushing into default scratch arc. Okay. Then go back to the arc, cross check. There was did not. Our example is LWC2. This is the component which I push. This is how I push. That's what I mentioned here. Are the instructions are clear, boss? Right? I hope everyone is good with that. Is that was clear? Everyone is clear with that?
Satish?
Yes, Amma.
Yes, Satish.
Dev Hub and Scratch Arc is different.
Mm-hmm.
Dev Hub background and Scratch Arc is this different or same?
No, both are different. Both are different.
Both. Okay.
Right. Now, move on to the next story. Now, this is only we just seen our basic installation of SFDX, how to create a dev hub, how to create a scratch arc, how to push, how to pull the code. Now, I have tried to avoid the codes here basically. Now, we are supposed to learn the codes, SFDX command line codes, we have to learn it. Okay, now we are in the beginning, we don't want to get the headache of remembering the codes, commands and pushing the code. That is the reason we have used the UI. But it's a good choice is to go with the code format so that we can also run it from the command line or we can run it from the terminal. Okay. Now let's get into the Lightning Web Component. One example, quick example, just to have a basic structure. Look at the story. Control Shift P. Create Lightning Web Component. Web component name. First component. Choose the default. So I'm creating first Lightning Web Component. So Lightning Web Component, it is going to be LWC. Text run, let the file be loaded.
Satish,
Yes.
one quick question.
Yes.
So we are pushing and pulling the code from scratch org, right?
Yes.
And what is the use of DevHub then?
DevHub is now different people are working on this. Your local repository, your Scratch arc is your local repository. They have to maintain a version controlling and push it to the DevHub. The final version will be pushing it to DevHub. See, initially, this is your personal system on which you are writing. From your personal system, you are pushing to your Scratch arc. Then when everything is done from Scratch arc, you push it to your concern arc. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
DevHub is production.
Come again.
The DevHub is the production or sandbox? Production.
DevHub is a production or repository material.
Scratch.org is nothing but a sandboxes, different sandboxes, right?
Yeah, you can consider it the same. You can consider it like a
Okay,
sandbox.
Okay.
Now the file is still not uploaded. Let me try for it. Okay. So once I create a Lightning Web Component, there will be 3 files which will be created. Not finding the third file here. Okay, let's wait. Probably reload is required for this. Okay. Let me create Control Shift P. Create Lightning Web Component.
How many scratches we can create?
Right. This is a limit, Amma. If I'm right, it's a 300, I guess. 300 somewhere. Okay, I'm not sure about the figure. It's around 300 something. Okay, I'll confirm it in the session.
300.
I'm not sure. Okay, it's somewhere around 300. I'll confirm it in the session. I'm not sure about the exact figure. Okay. Okay. Let me confirm it in this part.
Yeah.
Right. Once you create, there will be 3 files which will be created for this. Whenever we create, there will be 3 files which are created. Yeah, the file is loaded. Whenever we create a Lightning Web Component, now like let's say we have a component bundle. When you go for a component bundle, what we get? Component, helper, controller, design, SVG, renderer. In a similar way, when you create a Lightning Web Component, there will be 3 elements which will be created for us. First element is a .html file. Second one is a .js file. Third one is a metadata file. So total 3 files will be created. So by default, we require only 3 files for running the Lightning Web Components. One is the HTML file. Second one is the JS file. Third one is the metadata file. So if you look at this, first one, let us look at the point, HTML. I already told you everything that we write in the web component is going to be in the form of custom templates. So HTML template, everything that you want to write should be within this HTML template. Let us say I want to give Lightning. Now the same story, whatever you have done in the Lightning classes, the same story, but only thing is there we used to use Lightning : card. It is a Lightning -card. That's all. When you're creating a Lightning examples, Lightning components, you're done. Your framework Lightning : card. It is going to be Lightning -card. That's all. Then I'm going to give some example here. So whatever you want to write, that should be defined within the HTML. The HTML is a template. within the template we are defining it. Now, if you want to perform, please mute your mic, Amma. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Okay. Now, the second one, the second one is a JS file. When I say JS file, whenever you say JS file here, look at the story. Now, it is a controller. It is a controller. In the controller, whatever the logic you want to write, that should be defined here. So this class, whatever the logic you want to write, that should be defined within the class. If your component is second one, the class name also will be on second one. If the class name is second one, if the component name is second one, the class name also will be second one. Okay. Now here what we are supposed to do? Whatever the logic you want to define it. Let us say I want to define a variable. Generally what we do, where name equal to age, name equal to Satish. This is how we define the variables. But in the Lightning Web Components, we are supposed to define using @track. In the Lightning Web Components, we are supposed to define @track, variable name equal to value. Now, basically, if you go with the regular JavaScript, what we do? If it is a Apex programming, we say integer age. If it is a JavaScript, we write var age. If it is a Lightning Web Components, you have to give @track. We have to give @track. Okay, track variable name equal to var. This is how we are going to give it. So let me give a quick example here. @track. Okay. Equal to. This is how we are giving it. Okay. Because we are using @track, we are supposed to include this. We are supposed to import this. Lightning element, comma. Okay. This is how we are defining. So whatever the custom logic you want to write, that should be defined within the track. Whatever the custom logic you want to write, that should be defined within the JS file. In the JS file, all your variables which you want to make it as a dynamic, that we have to put it as @track. Now the data, this data is getting changed. So whenever you want the data, whenever you say the data is getting changed, you want to notify to this component. We have HTML file where you want to convey this. So if any change is happening, the variable what we got. Generally, if you want to display the variable, what we do, if it is a Lightning component, we say v dot attribute name. If it is a Visual Force page, we say variable name. Similarly, now I have a variable which is defined in the client-side controller. Now that variable I want to use it in the Lightning component. So I will give result. Let's say result. Now, whenever any change occurs on this variable, automatically this should be pushed. Whenever any change occurs on this, automatically it should be pushed. Now, what I want to do, by default I gave result equal to, this is the first example. But when this should be called, the client-side controller will be called, only whenever the event occurs. So I'm giving Lightning input. I told you already, it is just like a Lightning component only. Instead of colon, we are using hyphen. Or I can say message. Then I can say message value, whatever the value we enter here, that should be associated with the message. So here there is no double quotes. Straight away we are going to give. Generally we have a double quotes defined. Then we are going to give Whenever the value changes, I want to call it again. Here I'm going to call invoke me. Invoke me. Now look at the story. Lightning input, label message, value, result. Now what was that? What was that? Boss, whatever the value that is modified here, I want this value to be automatically notified to this. Now we have a variable called result. Whenever the value is modified there, I want to set the value or I want to load the value. So we are trying to append the value dynamically to the variable. We are trying to append the value. It is a variable. The value of that variable we are using within the component. The value of that variable we are using the component. Now here, not only printing, I also took an input text. In the input text, what is happening? Whenever the value is changing, I am invoking a functionality called invoke me. Whenever the value is changing, I am invoking a function called invoke me. So what should I do here? I have to define a JavaScript functionality called invoke me. So come back here. Invoke me. Then I have to identify what event has occurred. Invoke me. I have to identify what event has occurred. So when I say event, it is referring to. When I say event, it is referring to. When I say event, it is referring to the event that was caused by the element. Now refer to this. The event is event dot. The basic example, everywhere you find the same example. The attributes are modified, that's all. I was also trying to give the basic generalized example. Event dot target dot. When I say event dot target dot value, event dot target lightning input. When I say event dot target, the element. When I say event dot target, the element. When I say event dot target, the element. So dot value, the value entered in that element. This is how I have taken. Now this result is assigned to this result. So how do I refer to the element which is defined as track? This dot result. When I say this dot result, we are referring to the element which is defined as a track. So variables are defined by using at the rate of track. Right. A basic example. See step by step proceed down the line. Okay. Track. So basically, what was this? You are trying to define some client-side controllers. What are the client-side controller you want to define that you are doing? So whenever any modification occurs on this value, automatically the script is called. In the script, whatever the value we entered, it is reading the value, assigning to the variable called result. Now we had a third story here. This is important story. Look at the point. We had in the lightning components when you're designing, if you want the lightning component to be available on application page, record home page, then we had flexi available for record home page, flexi available for record all, okay, available for all pages, has record ID. Like this we have interfaces. We implemented those interfaces. Then we told that interface, when you implement the interface, that will tell where this component can be used. Similarly, we have created a lightning web component. When you create a lightning web component, I have to tell where this web component can be used. When you are creating a lightning component, I told implements, okay, flexi available for record home page, flexi available for record page, flexi available for record page, available for record home page, okay, has record ID. This type of interfaces we implemented to tell where this component can be used or how this component can be accessed. Now, in the lightning web components, how can you tell where this component can be used? The lightning component, where you can, okay, how can you tell where this component can be used? Then I have to go for metadata file. When I go to metadata file, first make is exposed true. Make this component exposed. Where you want this component to be exposed? Targets. Where I want this component to be exposed? Target lightning underscore app page. target lightning underscore underscore record page. I'm telling where this component can be used. Underscore. So we are making is exposed equal to true. We are making is exposed equal to true. Then we are telling in which locations we can use this component what we created. So this is how we created. Basically, HTML is the template. JavaScript is the controller. Metadata file will tell you the properties where this component can be exposed or used. Okay. Then once you created this lightning component, what I should do? I have to push to the production. So Control Shift P, your open default org. Then push the code. SFDX force source. Then go to your arc. Go to the components. Second one. Okay. Now I want to include this component. Go to any one of the page opportunities. This one opportunity. Go to the page. Then we have second one. Take the component wherever there is possibility, add it up. Okay. So whatever the lightning web component we created, it was added to the page. So this is an example component. What about the input? There's something bug with the input. Input was not coming. Cross check the input component what we have taken. So go to my component. On change, invoke. Okay. So I have given lightning hyphen input. We have given label. We have given value. On change. Okay. Let me cross check the component which I have given. We are supposed to get the input also. We didn't get the input box there. After making the changes, did I save it?
On change, is C supposed to be capital letter or does it make any difference?
No, not exactly. Even see, there's an event, right? So lightning input closing. Okay, it was not supposed to invoke me. Check out the functionality. Invoke me. Spell. Check out the spell. Any mistake in the spell? There is no invoke me. Right. Okay. Let me push it again. Cross check. First one or two example will be difficult. Okay. Only once you said 1-2 examples, rest will be comfort zone actually. Okay. So move on to the story. Let me push again. Okay. Let me move to the component. Let me add the same component to the different. Cross check what is the issue there. Let's see. There's no change we made. Maybe because of some reason we didn't get that. Next. See. Look at the story. Come back. You got the message. Right. So on change the data is coming. Both the boxes are coming. Right. Okay, boss. So this is how we have done it. Basically, this is a first basic example. We'll discuss down the line with reasonable examples here. Basically, when you're creating a Lightning Web Components, there are three elements which are created for you. One is the HTML element, second one is the JavaScript, third one is the metadata file. The HTML element will contain templates. Within the template, what are the components you want to create, what are the custom components you want to create, you are supposed to build it there. Second one is your JavaScript, client-side controller. Whatever the custom logics or scripting functionalities you want to build, all of them should be within this. And they have to define within the export default class. We have a class here. Within the class, what are the variables you want, what are the functionalities you want to define, all of them should be used here. So maybe writing a for loops, maybe writing a invoking an Apex class, writing a SQL queries, or invoking a web services, whatever the stuff you want to build, everything that should be defined within the class. Here, the variables are defined with the name @track. When you're defining the variables with the help of @track, that should be imported. So after the Lightning element, put track. I'll see just to demonstrate a quick example of including a Lightning Web Component. So in the next session, I'll be telling you step-by-step procedure, how we can include and what we need to use it. Right? I hope the basic story is clear for everyone. I hope everyone is good with the basic